Bees are one of the most fascinating creatures on earth. These little insects are the pollinators that most of our crops depend on to produce fruit. Honeybees are so important, in fact, that we have them to thank for 1/3 of the food we eat, including 80% of our fruits and vegetables. Here is all you need to know about them. While some bees are solitary like the carpenter bees and the leafcutter bees, species such as the honeybees and bumblebees are tremendously social. So who lives in the beehive? Well, a queen bee, many female worker bees and a few male drones. So let's talk about these. The term queen bee is widely used to describe powerful women. Good pick, since the insect queen bee is one impressive female. Her pheromone signals regulate the hive. In addition, as you can see in the picture here, she is much bigger than the worker bees and the drones. The queen is the life of the hive, actually the giver of life to all the bees in the hive. The queen is the largest bee and lays all the eggs that maintain the hive population. To keep her strength up, the worker bees, that is the other female bees, prepare her a special diet of royal jelly. The queen mates and lays eggs for her entire span of life. Honeybee queens can live up to 5 years, though most average a lifespan of 2 to 3 years. An aging queen may leave the hive with up to 60% of the workers and fly off to start a new hive, leaving a daughter queen to inherit the original hive. The colony can feed a continuous diet of royal jelly to a larvae and create a new queen. The drone, that is the male bees, comes from an unfertilized egg and it has half the chromosomes of a worker bee, that is 16 rather than 32. This system of reproduction is known as parthenogenesis. A drone develops slower than the other bees. It takes a drone 24 days to become an adult, while it takes 21 days for a worker bee to become an adult and only 16 days for the queen. The drones exist solely to fertilize the queen and die soon after having fulfilled their task. If you have ever watched ceaseless toil of the female worker bees on the honeycomb and around the garden, the expression busy as a bee comes to mind. The workers are responsible for everything besides reproduction. Young workers stay in the hive and focus on domestic tasks for the first few weeks. They may be attending the queen, cleaning the hive, and also removing debris, dust, and pollen from other bees. Once the wax glands are functioning, the workers can build honeycombs and use wax to cap the cells holding pupae. They help store food by packing empty cells into pollen for later use and fanning to increase evaporation to preserve honey in cells. Older workers gather nectar, water, and pollen for the hive. Some of the workers are acting as guards. Since the female worker bees perform a multitude of tasks necessary for the survival of the hive, their average lifespan is usually just 6 weeks. If you get too close to a beehive and if you were seen as a real danger, they would produce an alarm pheromone to warn the hive of your presence. Female honeybees have stingers. When their life is in danger, or they interpret the smell, noise, and colors as a threat to their hive, they sting. This stinger has barbs, just like a fishing hook, and when they are trying to pull it out, part of the bee's abdomen is torn apart. The bee dies soon after that. Queen honeybees and bees of many other species, such as bumblebees and many solitary bees, have smooth stingers and can often sting mammals repeatedly. When a bee stings, the barbed shaft of the stinger is left behind along with the venom sac. An attached muscle continues to pump venom through the stinger even after it has been disconnected from the bee. For this reason, a bee stinger should be removed immediately. All bees are hairy, a crucial trait for pollen collection. Flowers and flourishing vegetation often attract bees, and there is no insect as important as the bee when it comes to pollination. Many female bee species have rows of bristles on their hind legs which form a hollow basket. When the bee lands on a flower, pollen grains are combed into the hollow basket and bristles. Cross-pollination occurs when the displaced grains of pollen are distributed to the other flowers as the bee alights upon them. Pollen is sustenance for both adult and larval bees, as it contains protein and other nutrients necessary for their survival. Bees possess an organ that converts nectar into honey, which is collected inside the hive. Did you know that bees communicate through a form of dance? The round dance is used for food sources 25 to 100 meters away from the hive or closer. After distributing some of its newfound nectar to waiting bees, the scouts will begin running in a small circle, switching direction every so often. The dance may be repeated 3 or more times. This round dance does not give directional information. After a round dance, the bees fly out of the hive in all directions, searching for the food source they know must be there. Odor helps recruited bees find the new flowers in 2 ways. Bees watching the dance detect fragrance of the flower left on the dancing bee. Additionally, the scout bee leaves odor from its scent gland on the flower that helps guide the recruit. The second kind of dance is the waggle dance. As the food source becomes more distant, the round dance is replaced by the waggle dance. There is a gradual transition between the round and waggle dance taking place in a figure 8 pattern. The waggle dance includes information about the direction and energy required to fly to the goal. The waggle dance is really a round dance with tail wagging in the middle. The further away the food source, the more waggles there are in the dance. The bee increases the waggle part of the dance by 1 second for every kilometer of distance. The sun and gravity are used to enable the bee to comprehend and then communicate this information. The angle between the sun and line of flight is somehow computed by the honeybee and then communicated back to the colony. Bees use the direction of the dance to indicate the direction in which the other foraging worker bees need to fly to find the food, and this relates to the position of the sun. In addition, an upward tail wagging means go toward the sun, a downward tail wagging means fly away from the sun. Worker honeybees make hives to store honey and feed themselves throughout winter when they cannot go outdoors to forage for food. Honeybee hives are made of 6-sided tubes, which are the shapes for optimal honey production because they require less wax and can hold more honey. So how is honey made? Bees drink nectar from flowers using their long tongue. Their tongue is nearly twice as long as their body. This helps them reach the nectar inside the flower. The bees store nectar in a special sac called a honey stomach. Inside the stomach, the nectar is broken down into 2 sugars. A bee can carry a payload of nectar or pollen close to its own weight. When the nectar sacs are full, the honeybee returns to the hive. When they carry nectar within their pollen pouch, it mixes with a specialized enzyme. After returning to the hive, the worker bee transfers the nectar from its tongue to another worker's tongue, where the liquid from the nectar evaporates and becomes honey. The nectar's moisture content is reduced from about 70% to 20%. Sometimes the nectar is stored at once in cells in the honeycomb because some evaporation is caused by the temperature inside the hive. Finally, the honey is placed in storage cells and capped with beeswax. A few fun facts about bees. The wings of the bees flap 11,400 times per minute, which is why it sounds like they are buzzing. The queen may lay 600 to 800 eggs or even 1,500 eggs each day. It is the only insect that produces food eaten by man. A honeybee visits 50 to 100 flowers during one collection trip. The honeybee has been around for millions of years. If bees were to go extinct, all the crops pollinated by them would die. 80% of our food source would die too. The human race would die within 4 years.